Hello, I am Simon Freitae, one of your co-hosts.
And I am Azeb Freitae, your other co-host.
Yeah, and welcome to The Freitae Effect, a podcast where everyone is family and we join in communion to get some giggles, serve a sprinkle of side-eye, and a healthy helping of food for thought.
Yeah, guys, so that's right. We changed our branding.
New things.
LOL.
Sprinkle.
So if you've been with us from the beginning, you know. But if this is your first time, we are happy to have you.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. So I'm going to just do a quick recap of what our episode was last week. So last week's episode was the end of our Conversations with Creative segment, where we featured an interview with Jasmine Garcia, and we talked about the range of arts organizations that exist in the arts administration world, and how they need to do better to serve diverse populations of creatives, like actual creators, and audiences. So you can go back to that episode to tune in. But today,
to dizzle,
as we end that chapter, we start another. So this week, we are bringing part 3 of our 5-part series.
Yes.
We are almost halfway done with this season, y'all, called the storytelling segment.
Yeah.
So to kick off the segment of storytelling, we are doing y'all the biggest favor. And starting with a storytelling platform that may be super familiar to you. And that platform is podcasting! So since so many people are interested in starting a podcast these days, and so many friends have reached out and said, how did you get started? We decided it's time that we share all of our secrets. But before we get into that, it's time for
How the Turns of Tables. Yeah. So, if this is your first time listening to the show, I'm going to explain it again for everybody else listening, but for you especially. How the Turns of Tabled is our podcast. How the Turns of Tabled is our plot twist section. It is a storytelling section, actually, which is kind of funny because this is just fitting perfectly into our new segment.
Hello.
And I'm just going to jump right into it. So this story is about a day when I was at work with my dad. If you do not know, my dad is a painter, so there's not a lot of things to do while you watch paint dry.
Yes. Other than play your Game Boy.
Yeah, so I had I would always bring something to do when I was there, like reading Naruto books, drawing, like playing on my Game Boy, literally just whatever would pass the time. If I had homework, like summer work, I would always be sure to like bring it with me to my dad's job so that I had no distractions, and I would actually get the work done. But one day, the lady who owned the house that my dad was painting came home, and she was hanging around her house, and she saw me hanging out, and she decided to start a conversation with me, and I thought it meant I was going to be able to, like, watch her TV or something, but that was not the case. So she was creating some kind of radio show or something, and at the time, she's talking to me, a little 8-year-old, about her ideas. And so I had some ideas that she really enjoyed for some reason. And then
the youth is our inspiration of today.
From the mouth of babes.
Literally.
So she invited me inside and, said that she would give me ice cream. And immediately I'm just hearing myself say this, and I'm just like,
yeah, I was about to say
red
this.
flag, call 911. Like, what the fuck?
Step 1, lure the child. Lure. How do you spell lure?
L-U-R-E.
Not L-O-O-R?
Not yet.
Okay.
Lure the child.
Lure the child.
Give him ice cream.
With
Steal his
candy.
ideas.
Have you
Let him
seen
go
my
free.
dog? And then once you
Literally.
see a white van, you run!
Run.
Okay. Anyways.
After you get the candy. So I got the ice cream, and the lady got some ideas. We were bouncing back and forth for her show. And, like, these ideas were literally something like people confronting their childhood bullies on the show and seeing how successful they were now as adults.
Oh, no.
And it's just like, this lady really loved this stuff, but I don't know what else I said.
You were 8 years old. That's some heavy shit.
I know. I had a lot to say.
That's honestly, you know what that's like? You know when, like, people are in prison and then they go meet the person who, like, murdered their son or something to make amends? That's what this sounds like.
Yeah, so I was thinking of, like, she could do that on her show. And, basically the more I said stuff like this, the more ice cream I got. So this went on for like an hour.
She was like, scoop for you.
Literally. I don't remember what show it is, but there's something like that where they're just like, ooh, okay, here's another scoop of ice cream. And the child's like, yes. But basically, she kept giving me ice cream, and I kept giving her ideas. And this, at the end, I don't know. I just kind of felt like, great, I got ice cream, but also like, I don't know what the fuck that actually accomplished. And now as a successful podcast host, I feel like I was used. But it's whatever. It's not like she knew that I was going to be...
Don't extort children for ideas.
Yeah, basically the end of the story is just like, yeah, don't steal ideas from kids and don't give them credit, y'all. And if you are listening, I have this is my podcast. Like, I was successful. Give me money for if you were successful, please. Money, please.
His name is Simon Freitae. He lives at... No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to say what
Not yet. Not today.
Yeah, that's funny because I thought when you were talking about this that you were going to talk about Simon Freitae's Productions. So for those of you that don't know, Simon was a very creative child, and he started his own production company called Simon Freitae's Productions.
It was not a company. It was me with my dad's recorder in any random closet or room that I could find, and I would just make up songs and like...
But they were great!
So I had a whole story about a hammer going missing. Instead of like, where is my hairbrush? It was, where is my hammer?
Where is my hairbrush?
Oh, where is my hairbrush? Oh, where? All right.
For those of you who grew up on Veggie Tales.
Facts.
Yeah.
Ugh,
that's a
throwback.
time period. Alrighty. Well, thanks for that, Simon. Let's take a quick break. Hi, friends.
First, we just want to thank everyone who's made a donation to support the show through the various platforms like Patreon or by attending our events.
Running a podcast costs money because, as we say often,
this shit ain't free!
So here's what your dollars go to when you make a financial contribution to us.
Production costs. I edit every episode, and when you make a donation, it goes towards paying for reliable editing software, so we don't lose our audio files.
Streaming. It costs $18 a month to keep our episodes available for you to listen wherever you hear us.
No matter what donation amount, these are just a few of the ways we've seen how our patrons are able to make a positive impact on the show.
See what exclusive access you can get to our content by becoming a monthly donor through Patreon or PayPal. You can go to patreon.com/The Freitae Effect, and
you can find the PayPal link in any of our episode descriptions or in our Instagram bio. All right, let's get back to the show. So we are back from our break, and we are going to be jumping into an article that was recommended to us from the infamous Faith Bainu.
Yes, who was also on episode 17, I think, which is about that new news. So you can go back to season 1.
News.
And check her episode out, just in case you haven't heard it. But in the meantime, Simon's about to dig in with some highlights from this article that was shared with us about making a podcast.
Mm-hmm. So this article is a website called howtomakeapodcast.org. The article itself was written by Misha Youssef, a Pakistani-American podcast host and producer. And today we're going to be focusing on the first chapter called You Have an Idea? Should it be a podcast?
Before Simon gets into that, I just want to let y'all know, if you do end up clicking this website, there are multiple chapters. So we're only going into chapter 1, but there is so much amazing, resourceful information that can really help you get started if you're actually interested in like starting and sustaining a podcast and joining the podcast community.
Yeah, and we decided to choose this chapter specifically because it starts from the idea phase. Like, you know, it starts from where a lot of people are at when they think that they can create a podcast. And, you know, it cuts down the excess ideas that you have and really narrows your focus to what you should be doing to make your podcast successful and reach the people that you want with the message that you have.
Yep.
But
the other chapters go into other parts of this journey.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, bruv.
And first, I want to talk about, the article talks about the history of radio and how podcasts are, you know, such a big hit right now, which is bringing back radio. Like,
yay.
You know, like SiriusXM is, you know, like apparently killing it now because podcasting is back, or podcasting is here and they are back.
What's funny because like I remember when we were kids, we would listen to the radio with Dad when we would drive around and listen to like Raffi Radio, which was radio geared for children, or whatever that channel was that just played like all of the kids songs that we really liked. I forget what it was. Probably.
Well, there was a Disney channel too, wasn't there? Like Disney music?
Yeah, like that child. I forget what it was. I think it was like WBUR, but they had like really interesting hosts, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like it's getting kids involved with radio.
Yeah.
And
we used to even call into that radio show.
Yeah, and request a song. Like, people don't even realize you can actually do that.
Yep.
You know?
I mean, Dad calls into the radio now, and he actually ended up on the...
Maddie in the Morning Show.
Maddie in the Morning Show,
Yeah.
and he was trying to get us to find their podcast so that we could hear him call in and ask Maddie what would happen if Maddie got the coronavirus and he has tickets to his show. But, basically, this article talks about how the, podcasts really draw people in because you might be able to divide your attention. So if you're listening to a podcast, you can still go wash the dishes or go drive or go do a bunch of things that you can't do when you're reading a book or when you're trying to watch a movie and get all the plot points. Like, there's
True.
a lot more...
Yeah, there's like visual stimulation versus just auditory.
Yeah, exactly. And like a lot of podcasts you can just kind of tune out to and then jump back in.
If it's a sexy erotica podcast, which I don't think exists, but hey, y'all, if you hear it, they do. Make it happen.
But yeah, so like, I also think it's very American to be doing multiple things at once, which, kind of contributes to the success of podcasts in the United States. And it did make me reflect on my own beginning to listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, I started when I was at work because I got sick of hearing the same songs and playlists over and over and over again. And these shows had new content that came out every few days or every week or so. And when you follow multiple shows and then like, either they're long or short, like they serve different purposes for you. So because of how often there was new information coming out and it serves those different purposes, I felt like it really clicked better to help me focus on my job or focus on whatever was at hand for me than just hearing that same song and being like, fuck, now I need to skip my Spotify playlist again and like find something that's gonna help me zone out.
Or stay focused.
Oh yeah. Another quote I want to share from the article is that it says, podcasting is successful because no one has any friends right now, which I thought was fucking hilarious.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
Pandemic needs.
But exactly, like when we're all quarantined and shut down into the world and like we can't be around people. And you just want to feel like
you're surrounded by voices and humans.
You just hear people like having conversations in close proximity and there's that intimacy.
True. Exactly. And that's another really key thing is that there's this intimacy of like being in someone's ear. You're literally in someone's, it's just your voice.
Yep.
So like whatever you're saying, even like this is super meta,
right
like as
now.
us, we're talking to y'all. We're just like, that's exactly what it is. You have to realize like they can't see you. They have like, when you're reading a book and you imagine what someone looks like, it's like that, but like with listening. It's so interesting.
You guys are lucky we post pictures of ourselves, so you know. So the next thing I wanted to bring up was how the article talks about podcasting without having any radio experience. So you build your voice as you're creating your show. Like Azeb and I had a practice show about Martin Luther King Day, and it was, we have not released it to the world because it was the first thing that we created. It was just a test run, yeah. We didn't think anyone would want to hear it.
But also, like, we'll get into that later when we talk about our experience of starting podcasting. Because that was just us going to a site to, like, record in a studio, see how it feels, and we just did, like, a test run.
And we heard ourselves speaking and took notes on, like, what was awkward as well as what might be appropriate for our show that still... shows the message that we're going for.
Right.
So,
and I'll get into that later.
Yeah.
With intention.
And the next thing is, before you start recording, you gotta ask yourself some questions. Really important, very important questions.
Question number 1.
What makes you different? Like, why do people want to listen to you? Are you an expert on anything? Like, should you do this podcast? Are you passionate about what you're talking about? Like, I thought that it was just so great that this includes all of those questions, because when we went to the podcast garage and we're fleshing out our ideas, these were the things we asked ourselves, and it changed like the direction of our show so much,
like the whole scope.
And even the way you talk about the show, the awareness that you have towards, when you're just at a social gathering and people are like, oh, you have a podcast? What's it about? And then you have to have those 2 sentences. Like, you have to sell it right fucking there. Like, it's just all the, like, these things that you might not be thinking about when you're just like getting shit-faced with your friends, and then you're like, we have such great talks about television. We should rate TV shows on a podcast. And then you're just like, okay, good for fucking you. Like, why would I want to hear it, though?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's also like, maybe when your friends are like, oh my God, I should be on your show. It's like, okay, so what do you have to share that I can share with my audience? Does that apply to, like, my listeners? No, then I'm not going to have you on my show unless that there's something I think is relevant that you do for me to bring you on my show. So don't ask me to come on my fucking show unless you think there's something relevant, or unless I hit you up.
Which brings back to the question, are you an expert in anything?
Yeah.
We personally, we choose people that we believe have a lot to say that, still conveys an idea that matches up with our own ideas. Right. And so that's how it's a big contributor to how we choose our guests.
Yep.
But even when you don't have guests, you have to be able to cite your sources so that the listeners will trust what you have to say.
Yep.
Hence why Azeb and I literally pull out the Webster Merriam Dictionary, or whatever you say it's called. Words are hard. And then, we'll literally always say exactly what we're getting information from, so that y'all know these are reputable places.
Yeah.
And
credibility, baby. But also, we are not the only people that do this. Other podcasters do this.
Yes.
So knowing other podcasters, networking, meeting other people in the industry, being up to date with what's going on in the industry so that you can adapt and also be a part of the community and just up to date with what's going on. It's critical.
Yep.
As we've said in our Conversations with Creative segment, is that you have to, it may be an art, it may be something fun, but it's also a business. And you have to understand how that works, especially if you're trying to capitalize. If you're just doing it for the funs, the shits and giggles, then whatever, do your thing. And if it works and you get signed, good for you. That's a miracle.
Kill it.
Hit us up. Let us know your secret.
Speaking of getting signed and, creating a successful podcast for multiple episodes, big question to ask yourself. Will this last multiple episodes or seasons?
Facts.
Or is this an idea that you should just go on another established podcast, try out podcasting for yourself, hear your own voice on their podcast, and from there decide whether or not you want to commit to creating a whole ass show?
Yeah.
Because
it's a lot of work.
It's not easy. It's not free. And
as we've said.
Yeah. Like, we don't just say that because we want you to donate, because we do want you to donate. But but it's just so goddamn expensive sometimes. And if you get more official, it does get more expensive. Yeah. So just be prepared for what you're signing up for.
More money, more problems, baby.
More money, more problems.
With more, I'm not going to even say it. I was trying to say with more power comes more responsibility.
I
think that's Spider-Man.
What is it?
Fuck at it.
I thought it was Superman.
Spider-Man. It was what's Spider-Man's actual name? Ben Parker?
No. Peter Parker.
Peter Parker.
Uncle Ben. That's it.
Uncle Ben.
Yeah, we are fucking up, y'all, but it's fine.
Drunk. No, I'm just kidding.
Drunk, I'm not God.
Oh my God.
But that's all I have to say about the article. If you want to read more, feel free to read more. But I'm not going to read anymore.
So now that Simon's done reading, we're going to actually share our real life experience with y'all. Because I think it's really important to be transparent. So in our first episode, we talked about our very, very first episode of the show, we talked about what inspired us to do this podcast, right? And so we were inspired by other podcasts like The Read and The Friend Zone, etc. And so as we've mentioned, when we would come home from college, we would just have tea and we would just talk about shit that's going on in the world, things that are affecting us in our daily lives. And we were like, this is information that other people probably resonate with, or that they talk about, or just need like validation from other people that this is what's happening to them. And especially recognizing that, you know, a lot of people from our generation or our age range weren't in the podcasting world. We were like, well, we want to be a part of that voice, and we want to like provide that space, especially like being from Boston and being like people of color and from different perspectives of living and experiences. Even though we're related, you know, we navigate the world totally differently.
Oh yeah.
You know? So there are a couple important things to consider when you're talking about the idea, right? And the first one is your intention. So me being like someone who has a business background, I know that it takes at least 2 to 3 years for a business to actually make money, right? So we knew that this was not going to be a source of income for us.
Yep.
At least for the first couple of years, right? Depending on how serious we were going to get about it. And we wanted to see how successful it would be at first. So especially because we were still learning the industry, we needed to secure stability within our own lives.
Yep.
Because we were, you know, I just graduated, he was still in school, and then I was focused on moving out. You know, we were just trying to survive. So, you know, you have to be realistic with what is on your priority list for your real life and for your work life. And the thing is, those two things don't have to be separate. Those things are completely connected, you know? And if you're going to be someone who's an entrepreneur in this sense, starting a podcast, starting a business, you have to make those two things intersected. You know, there is obviously a difference between work and your life, but work is a part of your life. Yeah. So you need to figure out how to make it work with your life.
Make it work.
Because you live first. You don't live to work.
Yeah.
You work to live.
Yeah. Even though Americans in the capitalist system don't actually treat it like that.
Yeah.
But you strive for it.
Yeah. So being aware of the capacity that you're able to commit and the energy that you have or might be able to have is a huge, huge factor. The second part of your intention is to really think, okay, what am I providing, right? Like, what is this service or good that I'm giving? And that's complete business jargon. So I'm sitting here like, all right, Simon and I really talked about it, and we were like, our intention and our purpose and our mission is to provide a space of community and to like be a source of representation, you know? So when we are having a hard time trying to come up with ideas or trying to figure out what's next for us or what makes sense and what suits our specific podcast, we come back to our mission. That's key.
Yep.
The next part was, all right, check. Now we need to do some research. Yeah. So we did some research and we met with Berry from Pods in Color. She's a podcast consultant. And she just helped us figure out where to get started. But if you already are an existing podcast, you can also hit her up, get some feedback, get some help, resources. She has so much great
She's
the
best.
To say. She's really great. So Pods in Color have a lot of things going on to help you out.
Plus, they're like Barry just... I don't know how to say it exactly because it's been so long since that conversation we had with her, but I just remember hearing all the insight that she had and these things that she was sharing with us and just how much she really did care about like breaking everything down from what we were saying and making us have a clear mission and clear ideas so that we're not just flubbing out here on the mic. You know?
Like it's not just you and your friend having fun talking on a podcast. Like it's actually providing substance.
Yep.
But I mean, you can also do that too if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, it's just about your mission.
Yeah, it goes back to your mission. Another thing that we referred to a lot was this NPR article that really outlined everything to help us answer some questions to narrow stuff down that I'll also provide and put in the description when I find it.
Yeah.
And then another part of the research process was visiting studios. So one particular studio that we rely on is the PRX Podcast Garage in Alston. They also are now in DC and other places, I'm assuming. So you can check them out. But, you know, we participated in this class called Is This Mic On? And it's kind of like a podcasting 101 class, you know?
Yeah.
So the thing is, it's not free. you have to pay for stuff.
Yep.
If you want to learn things, because you're learning an industry. You know, this is all a part of your own professional development.
Also, you're supporting these businesses that create these spaces for people to build their businesses.
Yep.
Like, you know, it's like you're also supporting a community of podcasters. So even if you feel like, okay, I don't want to pay $10 just to go to this thing, like, we paid $10. We got a bunch of information. We networked a little bit. We, you know, like, we supported the podcast community. And overall, it was just such a positive experience.
Right.
So you never know what you're really going to get out of something until you just go do it.
Also, it was really nice to be in a space where there was, like, people of color. You know, I'm assuming, like, most folks who listen to podcasts probably listen to NPR or something, right? And y'all, I'm sorry, there's a lot of fucking white people there. And so, like, just being in a space where people of color are creating podcasts, or just, like, more than people of color, like LGBTQIA, like, folks in the community, like, presenting, you could see them. Like, there's a lot of visibility when you actually participate in the community aspect of it, and you, like, see the range and, like, who's willing to support what, and, like, who's there for you and where you can lean on. Yeah. So I also just want to go back for 2 seconds. Pods in Color is for podcasters of color. So if you're a person of color and you want to start a podcast, highly recommend using them. But going back to the PRX Podcast Garage, we were debating between the idea of using a studio and making an in-home studio and buying equipment, right? So with the studio time, there are multiple factors to take into consideration. So Simon and I were really thinking about, okay, how long does it take for us to get from my house or work to this location? Is that feasible? Is that realistic for my schedule and the other things I have going on in my life? How much money does it cost for us to be spending on studio time versus just buying equipment and, like, doing that at home? And then, you know, the whole calculations of cost of having your own home equipment and, like, home studio is, like, totally up to you on how much you're willing to spend and how much money you have, how much you're going to fundraise to get that money, or who you're going to ask to invest in your business. Like, there's so many different ways to go about getting the funding to get these tools and resources, right?
Also, there's, like, different kinds of equipment that you have to look into. There's a lot more research that you have to do when you're looking to create your own kind of home studio, as well as the fact of you are constantly growing your own home studio, where this podcast garage had a studio that every time that we record there, we've recorded a couple episodes there that have actually gotten onto the show. Like episode 12 with Olivia Winston. It's just like, oh my God, like, we could hear ourselves in the headphones and it was just like dead sound. Like, you know, it was just so clear. It was so sweet and nice. But it was also like,
that's what you're paying for.
It's like $1 a minute. And it's like, okay, this does add up. This is amazing.
And it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
But it's also like, you have to be realistic with what money you have.
Yeah, exactly. Like, right now, Azeb and I are unemployed, so it's not really realistic for us to think of going to a studio all the time, which is why I'm glad that we decided to buy our own equipment and record at our own house. So that was, you know, like, thinking ahead, like, being able to see those obstacles before you even face them. Like, it's just, it was nice that we invested in ourselves.
And also, not even the fact that we're both unemployed, because this is a source of employment.
Facts.
When we actually start making money off of it.
So money,
y'all
please.
Donate to the podcast.
Please. Become a patron.
But, you know, we're in a goddamn pandemic.
Yeah.
The studio is not accessible right now.
Oh, yeah.
So I am super glad that we made this decision. It's always good to have a backup plan, you know? So, I mean, even if you do choose to be a studio person, at least make sure you have a home studio option just in case.
I keep forgetting we're in a pandemic.
Yes, baby.
Oh, my God. Okay.
What a time. What a time to be alive. Another thing that comes with that is availability. So, you know, if you are choosing to record in a studio, at least make sure that your, like, the schedule that is there, because other people are going to be using that studio, you have to take into consideration your availability and the studio's availability. So if you're going to book once a week for every week for the next 5 months, you better have the money to do that, and do that ahead of time.
Oh, yeah.
Because it books up fast. So that's another thing, is just time accessibility. And also, including resources, you know, as I mentioned, we're in a pandemic. Simon and I, we initially were like, all right, cool. We're going to do guest interviews at the podcast garage until we feel comfortable using our home studio with guests. And now we're forced to be quarantined at home. We can't meet up with people. So now we use Zoom. And honestly, it's been so much easier.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I wish that we did this before. So now we know that when this is over, moving forward, we're just going to use Zoom.
Yep.
You know, like it's amazing, like what you can learn for different resources that can still serve the same purpose and you can still function your business.
Because we literally were like running all over the world to meet up with everyone at their jobs or at these random like
or people
places.
would come to our jobs or come to our house.
Oh my
or
God.
you know, like there was just so many different ways to do this. But now that we don't have to be in person, you know, I mean, it's always nice to be in person though.
It's an experience that you get, and like so. But yeah, it is nice to be able to just send someone an email link, them open it up on their computer, and then you're like, all right, cool. We're just here. It's recorded. It's saved. We're done. Like, and I didn't even need to leave my bed today.
Exactly. You didn't have to freak out. Get dressed.
Yeah, the red line.
Get mentally prepared.
Fuck.
Oh my God, traffic. You know, like there's so many things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
But other than the PRX Podcast Garage, there were plenty of other studios that we decided to visit as well. Simon, if you want to take this one over, feel free.
So we looked up a studio in Mattapan that we were interested in, you know, giving them our business and trying to record there instead of buying our own equipment. So we went down there to go kind of estimate prices, get the vibe of the studio.
I mean,
like,
especially because like the PRX Podcast Garage was closer to your house and Mattapan is closer to my house. We were like, all right, let's feel what this actually feels like in terms of commuting.
Yeah. So we get on the red line. We ride it all the way down.
And then we discovered the red line trolley.
We did not know this trolley existed at the end of Is it Ashmont?
Yeah. Because honestly, I mean, we had no business ever being in Mattapan. Like, we don't really have, like, homies that live out there or, like, a reason to be over there.
And the only times we've gone down there for, like, is, like, really Ethiopian events where our parents will drive us. So, like,
exactly.
You know, as, like, kids.
Yeah, like,
so,
for church stuff.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we were never really there.
So we get all the way down to the Ashmont end. And we're like, okay, cool. How do we get to Mattapan? And then there's like signs for this trolley, and we're like, what?
Yeah, and we're like time traveling.
Literally, the trolley looked like it came out of like Back to the Future from like the 1950s. We all get on,
like,
and
seriously
like
though,
Azeb and I don't. It just felt like we were out of a Martin Luther King movie. Like, you know, it was just like blacks in the back. Like this whole thing's just like going crazy.
So raggedy.
Like it felt like a roller coaster.
And the only reason we're saying this is because the MBTA, if you're listening,
Please.
you need to do better and fix the fucking system, okay?
Jesus
Just
Christ.
because Mattapan is a place where mostly black people live does not mean it does not need to be fucking, like, acknowledged. So can you please do better and, like, make it better for everybody who fucking lives there?
Like, stop making new fucking colored orange lines and actually fucking fix the Mattapan line. But whatever. That's another conversation when we're going to rip into the MBTA.
It'll come. Your day is coming.
Oh, just wait. So, Azeb, did you have anything else you wanted to say about that experience?
Well, it was really cute. Like, I really enjoyed working with the studio manager there. And it was just the reason why we didn't pick it was because it was so clearly a much more musically focused kind of studio. And they did have a space that was for, like, folks who wanted to do, like, a radio show or something. But it just didn't really make sense for what we were doing. And
it didn't really, like we were saying, like, we were trying to get the vibe. It didn't fit ours. So it might be good for someone else who was, you know, a singer or, you know, a more musically focused artist. But the vibe that we got was just that we should be doing something else that would be easier for us, and that kind of fits what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and we also just, like, really enjoyed being a part of, like, okay, this studio focuses mostly on our specific niche of a community. So, like, we're gonna, like, put more of our energy there because that's where we can find resources that support us.
Yeah.
As, like, our own business. So the next point I'm gonna bring up is purchasing equipment.
Oh, this fucking I love this.
So Simon and I have been on quite a goddamn journey.
We call it the shit we've done for this podcast.
Yeah, like during the preparation for making this podcast, we were like, this is going into the shit we have done for this show.
Yep, we were like, this is gonna be an episode. Like,
yeah. I mean, Simon, if you want to talk about this, go ahead, because you're much more of the equipment person than I am.
Oh my god. Okay, so we were going to Guitar Center because we researched online about microphones, and we just, you know, it was just kind of of a mess. We had somewhat of an idea, but we were just like, all right, we want to talk to someone who knows things. So we get in the car. Our parents drive us to, it's like Fenway-ish.
Yeah, we went,
And
Guitar Center.
we're like, oh, there's Guitar Center over there. We could see it. And then my dad was like, all right, get out of the car. And we were like, what? And then he's like, yeah, I'm not pulling over here. You got to get out right now. It's a red light. And we were like, oh, fuck.
That's
so
like the second time he did that shit to us.
Mm-hmm. So then we fucking pop out of the car. Everyone starts zooming. We're like, oh, fuck. And we're just like running across the street, dodging cars. Like,
we're like, ah,
so we finally get to Guitar Center. We're like fucking scared shitless. And then we're just walking around, like looking for the microphones. We find them. Then like this guy comes over and is like, hey, what's going on? And we're like, hello, we're looking for a microphone. He goes, yo, you got to look at this mic. And we're like, why? And then he's like, this is perfect for podcasters. It is the Snowball Blue. And we were like, oh, shit.
Like,
all right.
sell it, baby.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And then we were like, how much is it? And he goes, money. And we were like, oh, no, we don't have money.
we're like, we had no money.
Oh, no. So then we left. And
Yeah, we were like, we're never going to podcast again.
yeah. And then I think we ordered it on Amazon. We got a lot of things off of Amazon. I know that we got something specifically from Guitar Center. It might have been our interview
we got the
mic.
Interface.
Oh, the interface.
But we also realized we didn't even need it. So, you know, as you go, you will realize there are things you literally do not need.
Yeah, like this interface would have been useful, but the microphone that we got doesn't plug into it. And I guess what an interface does is it will take your sound and, you know, you can adjust it while you're recording. You can hear yourself while you're recording. It's just, it really helps you understand the sound input that you are putting out.
Yeah.
But it didn't link up with our mics. We looked up so many different things to try to convert the sound or the, you know, the wires, but it just didn't work. And one of our musician friends, Zoe Murph, she was looking for an interface, and I was like, you mean like this? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, girl, I will sell it to you for less than what we bought it for, because I'm a good friend. And that's what we did. Now we don't have to hold it anymore. Big piece of metal and like expensive, and I didn't want to break it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, honestly, like even with like mics, like Simon and I have tested out like different kind of ways of recording. You know, we started with 2 mics and now we just use 1 mic, and it has like an arm stand, and it's just easier for us.
It's so
I mean,
great.
even as we're recording right now, we put a blanket over our heads so that we have better sound quality. Like there are so many things that go into like how you want to decide of capturing the sound.
Mm-hmm. And like it's because of all this research that we've done, all this, you know, work that we've put in to make everything as professional and as, you know, like that's our mission, like to really put out the best that we can, because we think that our listeners deserve the best.
Facts.
So you are our listeners, you deserve it.
And if you feel like you are loved and affirmed right now,
accept it.
Go to our PayPal or Cash App and send us some shmoney.
And we'll accept it.
Anyways. The next part of this was choosing a recording platform.
Oh, God.
So this is the bane of our fucking existence.
Yep.
And so, you know, I just want to shout out with so much resentment to Audacity. We use you because you free.
We're currently using you.
Please do not shit the bed as we use you.
For the love of fucking God.
But there are other options that exist.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to use Audacity.
The only thing is that if you start using Audacity, you learn about Audacity, you get comfortable on Audacity, and then when you buy Reaper like we did, then you don't have a mouse on your computer, and you don't know how to use Reaper, and you're scared. So you just keep using Audacity.
Right.
But one day, we're going to move on. We will leave you Audacity. It's fine.
But in the meantime, we're grateful for your existence.
And I think we
and
love
you're a
you.
great place for us to start.
Yes.
And thank you.
Because it's free. As much as, you know, I'll be editing and, like, it will literally just delete the whole episode, and then I just don't have the sound file unless I already uploaded it to Google.
Because that happens.
That has happened so many times.
Not only to us, but to other podcasts as well.
Mm-hmm. We literally saw the reviews for Audacity, and it said, this shit will crash the bed always. And we were like... But it's free.
We're like, we had no money. Yeah. So do your research, whatever you can afford, whatever you're willing to spend money on, or if you want to do things for the free, that's up to you.
But if you use Audacity, I encourage you to save everything always immediately. Like, because you cannot trust sound editing platforms unless you have the files somewhere else.
Yes. Down to my last couple of points. I didn't discover this until we were already very deep in the game. but preserve your episodes, yo. So what that means is that, you might upload your episodes and broadcast them to the world, but you need to make sure that you have a central location in which the recordings exist, so that you don't lose the audio, so that you can refer back to them in case you need them for something else, right? Because the internet is not a reliable source of stability ever. Nobody understands the internet still. We use it and it's a great place, but also it is not a storage place.
No.
So make sure that you have a USB or some kind of drive.
I know there's this thing called the terabyte, and that's what a lot of people use because it's just so big. So that's something that I highly suggest if you're a podcaster.
Cool. Yeah, but just to make sure that you have your audio stored somewhere, just make sure that you think about that. Because we can't just trust that, I uploaded onto whatever platform I'm using to upload it on and be spread out through the world, so therefore it'll be reliable and I can find it sometime. No. Make sure that you have it somewhere where you know where it is.
Because let's say Azeb and I stop paying Buzzsprout. All of our stuff might get taken off Spotify. It's just there might not be a single place for us to download our episode, which is terrifying, which is why we have been saving it on USBs and saving it in Google Drive and all these different crazy places that take so much time to save, but it's going to save us from having to redo a whole fucking episode.
And money. Storage and memory cost money.
Oh, it does.
Lastly, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, but it's worth it.
It's worth it every single time. It's totally worth it just for your sanity. So my last point in regards to this is the idea of uploading your episodes. So Simon and I, as he just mentioned, we use Buzzsprout. There are other platforms you can use, but we personally like Buzzsprout the most because it's the only one we've been using, and it hasn't done us wrong yet. And it's been dispersing our places where they need to be.
It's a lot of different places, which is nice.
Yeah. So, wherever you're listening to us from, shout out to Buzzsprout. So the other side of this is the planning. After you've done the research, we're stepping into the scientific method. We're planning. And this means the business side, baby. So, obviously we've done all this research. We know things now. We're educated. Now, how are we going to execute? How are we going to prepare to execute? So you need to have a timeline with specific goals. So Simon and I, we decided as a team, just us two, we said, hey, we're going to use our launch party as our major goal. And this launch party will be when we announce the show, when we get people excited. And before then, it'll give us plenty of time to actually make it happen, And so everything we just said is what we did in our timeline to get to now.
And we had two timelines. We had the pre-execution and then post-execution. So we were planning for both ends always.
Yep. You got to be ready. And going off of that, you have to constantly reevaluate your goals.
Yes.
Because life happens.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so you have to be flexible. It's not just a linear straight line. It's not super simple. Nothing is ever like that. Life is not like that.
Also, you are human, so do not be too hard on yourself if you have to adjust your goals.
Facts.
Because things change.
Facts.
You change.
And that applies to anything that you're choosing to do.
Yeah.
You could get hit by a car. You know what I mean? Literally anything could happen.
One of our friends got hit by a car the week after we recorded with them. It was insane. And, just when we recorded and then released that episode, then, it was really emotional for us because it was just wow, we're so blessed that we were able to do this, but our friend really can't walk right now.
Yeah. Literally anything could happen to you. So, as we're saying, you have to be flexible, adaptable, and just be ready for anything to happen. The next thing that I was going to bring up is choosing to do this seasonally versus every single week. So you are the only person in the world that knows your capacity, like I mentioned in the beginning, right? So for Simon and I, we knew, okay, we have a bunch of projects going on right now at this specific time, so maybe it makes sense to start doing this podcast during this time. And that's why I was saying the intersection of work and your personal life have to be together. Because if you don't understand how this is going to fit into your life, then that means you're just pretending there is a separate entity of these two things that are happening, and that's why they have to be encapsulated in what your life is, right?
Because life isn't just happening to you. You make decisions, and that is a part of your life, like a part of what you do, your habits, your behavior, your plans. So you got to fit this into your time, because you got to write like you're running out of time.
And also, you don't want your podcast to suffer. So you have to think about your listeners. You have to give them a chance to miss you. But also, if you have the capacity to do it every single week, you have a team, you have people who can support you, then go for it, man.
Like,
but otherwise, that's not what works for us, so that's not what we're doing. Another thing is having weekly meetings. Whether it's on season or off season, you have to keep having meetings, depending on whether or like how serious you are about this, right?
Yeah.
So Simon and I, we are just one team. It is just me and him. And how we do this is we divide up the tasks, right? We've made very clear roles of who does what, and we check in every single week. You can check in daily, you can check in monthly, you can check in bi-weekly. It's up to you, but for us, we feel comfortable meeting weekly.
And, like, we'll check in about stuff, just kind of, you know, like, I'll call her and be like, hey, girl, how you do? Like, you know, I'm drinking a protein shake. I got a rough draft up right now. Like, you know, just any random time that, like, obviously we try to keep a balance of, like, not just checking in with podcast stuff all the time and stressing each other out.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, it depends on what works for you and your team.
Yep. And you also just have to be aware of, like, what's going on in your teammates' personal lives, too. Like, I mean, you don't have to be, like, best friends, but it's like if somebody fucking died.
Yep.
Or, like, if they won a scholarship to be a part of this grad program. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be ready for anything. So I'm just going to drive the point home of adaptability.
Yes.
So, for example, between Simon and I, Simon edits the episodes. I do the networking and the marketing. And together we attend education opportunities for us to understand what's going on in the industry. We are going to be looking for folks to join our team soon. Most people, if you refer to the article that we said, probably build a team before. Simon and I, we're not in the place of luxury to be able to do that.
Nope.
Because you can do that at any point. None of this has to be in a linear order, as I mentioned. If you want to create a team at a different time of your life, feel free to fucking do that, because that's what we're doing.
Yep.
So anyways, I'm going to just put this cute little pitch out right now that if you want to be a part of the Freitae Effect family, let us know. And if you have the skills, please apply. Other ways. I don't even know what I was trying to say there. Otherwise? I don't even know.
Other ways.
It doesn't sound right at this point. Otherwise. One thing that you should also take into consideration for the planning is your visual content.
Yes.
Because yes, it is a auditory platform, but we are a visual generation. And with social media, with flyers, with marketing, with operations, with merchandise, there's so much visual content and creative capacity.
Even like when you post an episode, you need to have episode art. Like, you know, like if something's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, whatever, when it's playing on your phone and then you pause it, if it's just a blank screen, that's not memorable. When it's like two smiling faces or like a cartoon or like a flower or something, then you're just like, oh my god, this is my podcast.
And you will be asked for it. Like people will ask you for it,
especially if people are trying to help you and like sponsor you on their pages. They will want your art. And if you don't have it, it's again another point of that professionalism. Like if you want to bring your podcast to the next level, you have to have these things at the basic level.
And you need to just think about like what that graphic content is, what it looks like. Does it fit your vibe? Does it fit the voice of your show?
The vibe.
For visibility and for sharing. And also, like, as I mentioned, we're a very visual generation. So it's like if you're just sending out paragraphs of words of what your show is, it's not as powerful as like being able to connect, oh, this is a human being behind the voice of the words that I'm listening to.
Because we can barely read on this show.
And also like, nobody reads. Literally nobody reads. If you send out a fucking email or a text, no one's gonna read that shit. I'm just saying, I know for a fact y'all don't fucking read.
Yeah, it's facts.
I know you don't. All right, and now...
And if you do read, then email us, and then we'll send you a long-ass paragraph, and you can... No, I'm just kidding.
I'm dead. All right, now I'm going to get into our last little bit.
Little bits.
The execution. So as I mentioned in the beginning, Simon and I used the launch party as our like goal set, right? Of like, okay, we have to do X, Y, and Z before we get to the launch party to announce that we're happening. So as I mentioned before, this was a way to get people excited. And Simon and I, we decided, okay, cool. We're going to make this a very intimate experience. We're only going to invite our friends and family. We had it at our parents' house because we knew we had no money to do it at a space that is going to cost money.
We also didn't know how successful it would be if we rented a venue, like, for the idea of
and we didn't have a team.
Fundraising.
We were like, it's just us.
Like,
yeah,
it was way out of our reach. Because, again, we are, you know, like, given our current socioeconomic status, like, we don't have these rich parents that can just go buy out a place for us to have our fucking launch party. Like, this is just us doing shit. So, you know, again, donate to the show.
As we've mentioned a couple times, this shit ain't free. But also, like, you know, if you have the means and you want to do that, feel free. You just, like, we were just matching what is something that we are comfortable with. And at the end of the day, when you're running a business, you just have to be realistic with what you have available to you. You can't just copy and paste something from somebody else's like model. You have to like take something and make it adaptable to your actual experience. Because that's how systems work. You know? As we've said in so many different varieties. So for example, one of my friends, the Mad Workologist, she had her own show that was about living in the co-working space, and it's like, you know, not safe for work. But it was about work. And she had a whole team, and she launched a whole launch party that was in New York, and it was at a public venue, and she raised a bunch of money. But the thing is, again, you have to be aware of like your capacity. So we used the launch party as a way to raise money, spread awareness, and like gain excitement for our first episode. And to like have a solid base of like our starting audience.
And it was so nice because even the people that were there, like, you know, a lot of them have ended up on the show. It was our community. It was the people that we felt would be our listeners, you know?
Yep, exactly. And my last point, I'm going to go into sustaining the podcast.
Yes.
So, as we know, for some of us, the point is to hopefully someday make money off of doing this, right? So if you dig into the article that we provided, it shares a whole chapter about how to gain this source of income, right? And so, for example, advertisements, merchandise, having a strong foundational donor base, fundraising campaigns, social media, events, virtual and physical, Patreon. Patreon is a fundraising platform that anybody can use for any kind of organization, not just podcasts. But it's a fundraising outlet where you can provide interaction with your audience. You can provide VIP specialties with certain levels of donors.
Like the Facebook of fundraising.
Right, but it's also kind of like Nonprofit 101.
Yeah.
But you also don't have to be a nonprofit. You can be a LLC.
Like
which
we
is
are.
We are Nina.
We're official, y'all. $600 later.
Yeah, there's like there's secret pricing that the government doesn't tell you about until you start to do it.
For real.
But anyways, it just depends on how serious you are about trying to capitalize off of this, or if you're just trying to do your thing. And because, you know, the reality of like actually being signed to a network depends on how heavy you are on the actual networking part and how much you understand the business part of your podcast. But for us, for now, we're trying to do both. And we are also openly here to just be speaking on behalf of community. And whoever hears us, and whatever happens, happens.
Hashtag we are here.
Hey, yo. But at the end of the day, that brings me back to my point of it always goes back to the mission.
Yes.
Whenever you lose sight of track of where you're going, just think about your purpose, think about your initial intention, and just keep producing your episodes. Don't give up on yourself. Even if it's seasonally, just be like, all right, cool. This is when I'm going to stop. This is when I'm going to start. And then we'll be back for the next season if you still feel the drive and passion to do it. You know?
Yeah.
So that's all I got, man.
You want to take a break?
Let's take a break.
Dad jokes! Notes and quotes! Dad jokes. Notes and quotes. Dad jokes. Dad jokes. Notes and quotes. By Scott Freitae.
Okay, this is, you have to guess which one I said. To a gambler, a woman might fuck you, but the Jets will always fuck you. Okay. Okay, number 2. Transformers, more than eats the eye.
What's the actual saying?
Meets the eye.
Transformers,
Okay.
robots in disguise.
No, more than meets the eye.
Yeah, robots in
But there
disguise
was
were both.
okay, I can't, I have to still, I have to say anonymous, because I don't want to give away the answer.
Okay.
I remember how, I just don't remember why.
Wow.
Okay. I don't improv, I improve.
Oh my god.
Okay, those are your 4.
Okay.
What's number 1?
To a gambler, a woman might fuck you, but the Jets will always fuck you.
That's a comedian.
I guess it's number 4.
I don't improv, I improve. Azeb, you want to hear the other 2?
What's
Transformers, more than eats the eye. That's number 2. And number 3, I remember how, I just don't remember why.
It's that one.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It's number 3. Okay.
That was good.
All right. Here we go.
I just feel like you would be like, I don't improv. I improve. Like,
I stole that from somebody. Okay, here's number 1. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Number 2, what is a master but a master student? Number 3, if a priest cuts all contacts with you, will he be Holy Ghosting you?
Oh my god.
And number 4, is it just me, or did you just see her baby? Oh, what the fuck? Oh, here it is. Okay, here's number 4. Is it just me, or did you just see her baby maker?
It's the priest one.
it's the priest one, right?
Hold on. No.
What?
It's even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Really?
I feel like you stole
Number
that
1.
from somewhere.
I stole it from somebody, but yeah. Can I just say this is an added bonus?
Oh, here we go.
Joe Biden said he wouldn't have a vice president younger than him. Sorry, redwood trees. Can I do that?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we
That's
don't
that's
care.
fine.
Thank you. We're to wipe out half of the first part of the show.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, but
yes, we fucking
Joe
did.
Biden. Yeah.
Joe Biden can stay.
He knows.
Hey.
So we are back from Dad Jokes, Notes, and Quotes. Azeb, do you have any key takeaways?
TBH. I think I said everything I need to say.
Okay. So I have 2 pretty big key takeaways from this episode. First is to find a way to get your name on everything that you create so that you can get credit. Because old white people don't deserve to be thriving off young black people's ideas any fucking longer.
Louder!
Bam. Mic drop. Point number 2 of these keys. Oh, shit. Did we even say, let's take these keys? Let's take these keys! Okay. Take them away. Okay, because I was like, fuck, the key noise. Okay. Oh, fuck. But I do have a second key. The second one is, so in the article, the author consolidated all of these questions that I've mentioned and more into a beautiful checklist at the end of the first chapter. So if you are considering starting your own podcast, I highly suggest having answers to all of these questions to make sure that you feel good about committing to the endeavor of podcasting. Because podcasting is amazing, and every time Azeb and I receive these affirmations, we literally start fucking ugly crying.
Like, literally.
Always, like, immediately.
Like, seriously. Like, when you guys, like, text us or email us or, like, leave comments anywhere, we're
my
always
God.
just like...
We'll just be texting each other and,
actually,
like...
listen back to please share any feedback. Seriously.
Always.
All the time.
Just also keep in mind, though, if you are considering starting your show, that managing a podcast is very time consuming.
Yes,
It takes
baby.
a lot of your energy. It's going to be worth it in the end. Like, randomly, you'll be reminded why it's worth it.
Yep.
But you just have to keep coming back to your mission and keep coming back to, you know, why you started it in the first place if you're serious about what you're doing.
Yes, honey.
All right. Any announcements?
Oh, you already know.
I think I do.
The motherfucking vibes.
Yeah.
So your girl, Azeb Mariam Freitae. I said my middle name,
Oh,
y'all.
shit,
That's when you know
government.
it's serious.
We're getting government.
It's serious. Oh.
Shit.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
So, if you don't know, now you know.
Nigga.
I was like, we gonna say it?
We are gonna say nigga. Fuck it. I'm black.
Shit.
All right.
But yeah, so I have been working on a project with the Nozama Dance Collective.
Yes, she has.
Based in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Ooh.
And they are providing a series called Empower One Another, which normally happens in person. I was originally working with them before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, and we were all like, shit, we don't know what's going to go happen with all of our creative projects. But we brought it back.
Yeah.
And so we will be virtually performing all of the work that we have been putting together on September 26th. Please buy your tickets. I most likely will have this information in my bio on Instagram and all over my Facebook. So if you have me on social media, I will help you find where it is, and I probably will include it in this description whenever you listen to it. But September 26th, mark your calendars for this virtual performance. It's most likely going to be a series of video dance projects, and they will be very special. Mine in particular is regarding the Black Lives Matter movement and allyship. So if you would like to see a dance project around that kind of messaging, please tune in. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be free or if it's going to cost money, but you know, when in doubt, if it costs money, it's for a good cause. So please consider donating and participating or attending and seeing me dance and other people dance. There are so many amazing dancers from the Boston, Cambridge area that are probably participating. So please tune in on September 26th.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you want to catch me and Simon in the real streets of Boston, Massachusetts, hit us up in the emails and let us know the word. You might see us on our social media doing some work with the Everett Music Department, our hometown.
The marching band.
Yes. So if you're interested in supporting your local marching band,
Yep.
pull up. Wear your fucking mask,
For real, though. Fucking wear a mask,
have
guys.
handy sandy on hand. Wash your hands. Stay 6 feet a fucking way from everyone that you see.
Yep. We're going to be yelling that at kids all summer, so we're going to yell it at you right fucking now.
Seriously, wear your
Just wear a fucking
mask.
Like, goddamn, the CDC... I have a fucking announcement. So, the CDC fucking said in March, if we just wore our fucking masks, we would be done in a month. And it's fucking July, and COVID's still here, and the Republicans don't believe in it. So, fuck y'all. Fucking wear a mask. I love you, but goddamn, wear it. All right. Don't
Please.
touch each other. 6 feet. Masks, that's it.
We can do it. We've done it before and we can do it again.
We can. Like,
Yes.
goddamn, we don't need to repeat the Spanish flu because history does this thing when we repeat ourselves and we don't fucking learn. So just learn.
History has its eyes on you. Be sure to like the episode.
And share with friends and follow on social media.
Subscribe and comment on SoundCloud.
Follow on Spotify.
Apple Podcasts.
Or wherever you stream us.
Email us or comment on social media.
Or leave a review with any feedback
Affirmations or topics
you want to hear on the show.
at thefreighteseffect@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening.
And have the fucking greatest
the best.
rest of your week.
Goodbye.
Love your butt.